I'm Leslie Main Johnson from Edmonton, Alberta, in Western Canada, and today I'm going to talk about snowshoe design. Snowshoes are quintessential northern technology required for winter movement, and generally as these, they're comprised of wooden frames webbed with hide and allow support of human travelers on top of deep snows. This paper is an exploration of drivers of snowshoe design in Western and Northwestern Canada and Alaska, and is based on sporadic work since the late 70s and focused museum-based research in 2018 and 2019. Snowshoes are ubiquitous in northern history, enabling travel in terrain where snow cover is a significant environmental factor in many places for more than half the year. So there's two main designs for snowshoes, round-toed types and pointed-toed types. This slide depicts a range of round-toed designs. Snowshoes can be made of a single bent piece of wood, and these are generally broad and rounded, or they can be made out of two pieces of wood, and they're generally narrower and longer. Across the north, two-piece frames are the norm and represent most of the snowshoes shown on this slide. Snowshoes can also be pointed-toe designs, and here are a range of pointed-toe snowshoe designs from a number of different peoples across northern Canada and Alaska. I anticipate that snowshoe design will reflect both snow types and circumstances of use. I've used archival photos to gain a sense of historic design and conditions of use. So we're looking at packing on a trail with a dog, we're looking at traveling with a toboggan and a dog team on a river. We're looking at checking our traps on snowshoes, and we're looking at people assisting dogs up a steep incline when they're pulling a sled up in the Yukon. So my research, design, and analysis is focused on Indigenous snowshoe design in northwestern Canada and adjacent Alaska for the most part. My analytic approach includes a focus on cultural and linguistic affiliation, geographic and ecological factors, and an examination of snowshoe design and manufacture over the period from the earliest records in the region to the present, and the oldest snowshoes I looked at date from the late 1830s. Postulated drivers of design include climate and snow conditions, terrain, cultural tradition, way of life, available materials, aesthetics, spirituality, and connections. Among the questions of interest are how large, length, and area are snowshoes and why. These snowshoes are all designed for the same general snow conditions, deep powder in the boreal low Arctic, and span nearly half a century in the time of making. The hunting snowshoes are nearly twice as long as the child's shoes, and the normal trail shoes for an adult are in between. Archival photos show the need for two sizes of snowshoes when traveling by dog sled, a large pair for breaking trail and traversing unbroken snow, and a smaller pair to wear on an already packed trail. On the right is a huge pair of hunting snowshoes from Great Bear Lake, 173 centimeters long, enabling hunting in deep powder snow. Shifting focus, we can also look at regional styles through time. The two pairs of snowshoes shown here date from before 1880 and the mid-20th century. The snowshoes, which you may or may not be able to see over here in the back behind the lodge, are very, very similar, and that illustration was made in 1847. If we move now to coastal Alaska, Tlingit shoes are good for deep snow in the mountains and for hunting, and we can corroborate that they're good for hunting through this small figurine wearing a traditional Athabascan leather tunic, and his snowshoes are very similar in design to the pair from 1917 and to the pair photographed by George Emmons in 1890. We can also perceive change over time in snowshoes. So the Teslin Tlingit people moved upriver from the coast in the last couple of centuries. Early Teslin shoes appear to have been round-toed for the most part. Contemporary Teslin shoes are exclusively of the pointed-toe type shown on the right, and photos of Old Fox, the snowshoe maker, taken by anthropologist Catherine McClellan in the late 1940s showed that he made both round-toed and pointed-toed snowshoes, and I've been curious for years as to why. We can also see other examples of persistence over time. So these distinctive sort of double-pointed snowshoes are from the Mackenzie River drainage. And looking at the lithograph of green stockings mending a snowshoe from 1821, we see exactly the same snowshoe design. The snowshoes shown on this slide all feature sharply upturned rounded toes, and they are from across northern and northwestern British Columbia. And I think people were talking to each other. These groups all traded at Bear Lake at Fort Connolly since the 1820s. But interestingly, pointed toe designs are also prevalent for many of the groups over the same area, and there are some shifts over time, which I don't have time to discuss. So, some of my research also involved documenting the language of snowshoes. So here's a diagram based on an interview with Simogat Luz from 1988, showing Gitxsan terms for parts of snowshoes. And here's a similar slide based on Wet'suwet'en research in the mid-1980s, showing Wet'suwet'en terms for snowshoe parts. They're neighboring group to the Gitxsan. There are also questions about what influence do available materials have on snowshoe construction. Wood for snowshoes must be able to be bent without breaking. Durability and weight are also factors. Available species place obvious constraints on choices for people in specific places and times. Snowshoes are usually netted with stretched rawhide thongs, normally called babiche, in Northwestern North America. Heavier babiche is needed in the foot area to support the weight of the wearer, while fine fill in the toe and tail assists flotation. And again, the species that you have available in your region will influence which species hide you'll be choosing to net your snowshoes. A lasting puzzle for me is why are pointed toe snowshoes prevalent in some areas and why are round toe snowshoes prevalent in other areas? I'm speaking here mostly of Western and Northwestern Canada and Alaska. So the turquoise are pointed toe designs. The lavender are round toe designs. There are round toe designs of the northern British Columbia style down here. And the hatched areas show places where both styles of snowshoes have been made, either at the same time or over different historical periods. Ease of navigation through brush, ease of construction for pointed toe shoes or round-toed shoes, that round-toed designs don't bruise your knees, and that round-toed designs are better for long-distance travel, while pointed-toe designs are better for hunting or local travel. Another puzzle for me is the places that people use rectangular foot fill, which is essentially universal in Alaska, very prevalent in the Yukon, and where do they use hexagonal webbing for foot fill? And that is essentially all of Canada. And then there's areas of overlap in the Northwest Territories and in the Southeast Yukon. The only insight I have on this one is that I was told by a Cheslin snowshoe maker that the snow packs under your feet less when you have the open rectangular foot fill. So, museum and archival photo research is ongoing, having been paused by travel restrictions during COVID, so the analysis is still incomplete. And I'd like to close now with thanks to my teachers, Thanks to the staff of the various museums who assisted me in this research, and also to Melanie Morin from Smithers, and to my funders for years, which included Canadian Secretary of State, National Native Alcohol and Drug Abuse Prevention Program, Canadian Circumpolar Institute, Social Science and Humanities Research Council, the Chin Renewable Resource Board, Athabasca Research Fund, and the Jacobs Research Fund. So with that, thank you very much for your attention.